Dad perfect events. I nearly dropped my coffee when I saw her through the construction trailer window. Lisa Hayes, my daughter-in-law, 8 months pregnant, wearing a stained apron, taking orders from my own construction crew at Maria's taco truck. The same woman my son Benjamin swore had run off with another man 3 months ago. I'm Victor Hayes, 58 years old, and I've been running Hayes Construction for 30 years. Built it from nothing after I got back from Vietnam. Started as a framer and worked my way up. Now we're pulling in $20 million a year, and I thought I'd seen every kind of betrayal the business world had to offer. I was wrong. Theodore Walsh, my business partner for 15 years, was sitting across from me in the trailer tapping his fingers on a $230 million development contract. We'd been going over the Oakwood Plaza project details for an hour, but my hand had been shaking so bad I couldn't sign the papers. "Victor, you've been staring at that signature line for 10 minutes, Ted said. "What's the problem? You feeling all right?" That was putting it mildly. For months, I'd been getting these dizzy spells that hit me like a freight train, headaches, nausea, fatigue that made me feel like I was 80 instead of 58. My doctor said it might be stress or age catching up with me. Figured that's what happens when you spend 3 decades building a company from scratch. "Just tired," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Haven't been sleeping well." Theodore shifted in his chair. "Look, this is our biggest project yet. We need this signed today if we're going to break ground next month. The investors are getting antsy." I nodded and tried to focus on the contract. That's when I heard the rumble of the food truck pulling up outside. It was lunchtime and the guys needed to eat. Normal sound of a job site, nothing unusual about that. "You want something?" Theodore asks, standing up. "Maria's Tacos is here. Just a coffee," I said. "Black." He headed outside, and I could hear voices through the thin walls of the trailer, construction workers joking around, ordering their usual. The kind of normal workplace sounds I'd been listening to for 30 years. But then I heard something that made my blood run cold. A woman's voice, soft, scared. Familiar. That's when I looked out the window and saw her. Lisa Hayes, my son's wife, struggled with the weight of the cash box while balancing her huge belly. The guys were being respectful, my crews got good manners, but I could see how hard it was for her to move around in that cramped truck space. Her face was pale, drawn, like she hadn't been eating right. What the hell was Lisa doing working at a food truck? Benjamin had told the whole family she'd left him for some guy from California. Said she cleaned out their joint account and disappeared without a word. We'd all felt sorry for him. Thought he was the victim of a cheating wife. I even helped him move back into the family house afterward, told him he could stay as long as he needed to get back on his feet. But there she was, 8 months pregnant, serving tacos to construction workers for tips. I watched Theodore walk up to the truck window. Lisa's face went white when she saw him. She tried to turn away, but he'd already recognized her. "Holy shit," I heard him say through the window. "Isn't that Benjamin's wife?" Lisa handed him his order without looking up. Her hands were shaking so bad she nearly dropped the bag. The way she moved, hunched over like she was trying to disappear, it reminded me of wounded soldiers I'd seen in Vietnam, people who'd been through something terrible. I couldn't sit still anymore. I stood up from the desk, my legs feeling like jelly. The afternoon Texas heat hit me when I opened the trailer door, and for a second the world spun like I was on a carnival ride. But I kept moving toward that food truck. When Lisa saw me coming, she froze. Pure terror in her eyes, like seeing a ghost or seeing the enemy. "Lisa," I said, my voice cracking. "What are you doing here?" She looked around frantically like a trapped animal. I'm just working, Mr. Hayes, just trying to make some money. Working." I stepped closer. Benjamin said, "You left town," said you ran off with someone. Tears started rolling down her face. "Please," she whispered. "Don't tell him you saw me. Don't tell him." "My own son, Lisa, talk to me. What's going on?" She looked at Theodore, then back at me. Her eyes were darting around like she was planning an escape route. "Not here. Please. Can we talk somewhere else?" I told Theodore I wasn't feeling well and needed to head home early, which wasn't a lie. I felt like I was going to puke. The whole situation had my head spinning worse than my usual dizzy spells. We agreed to finish the Oakwood Plaza paperwork tomorrow. Lisa followed me in her beat-up Honda to a Denny's about 5 miles from the construction site. Far enough away that none of my crew would see us, but close enough that she wouldn't panic and bolt. In the restaurant booth, she looked even worse than she had at the food truck. Dark circles under her eyes, skin pale as paper. She kept one hand on her belly the whole time, protective-like. The waitress brought us coffee, and I noticed Lisa's hands shaking when she reached for the sugar. "He didn't just ask me to leave, Victor," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "He made me leave." "What do you mean, made you?" "Benjamin brought Patricia Wilson home. You remember her? She used to work for your company." I remembered Patricia. Sharp woman, good with numbers and computers. I'd fired her 2 years ago for falsifying expense reports, caught her padding her mileage and hotel costs. Hadn't seen her since. What about her? He moved her into our house while I was still living there. Said she was helping him with business stuff, analyzing contracts and financial reports. But they weren't hiding what was really going on. They wanted me to see it. My hands clenched into fists on the table. He was cheating on you while you were pregnant with his child? Worse than that. Lisa wiped her eyes with a napkin. They made me feel like I didn't exist in my own home. Patricia started wearing my clothes, my jewelry. She'd cook dinner in my kitchen, wearing my apron. They'd sit at the dinner table talking about their future together like I was a piece of furniture. I felt sick listening to this. Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you tell me what was happening? Benjamin said if I caused trouble, he'd have me declared mentally unfit. Said he'd take the baby and I'd never see him again. He has lawyers, Victor, good ones. I don't have anything, no money, no family support, nothing. The waitress came by to refill our coffee. I waited until she was gone before speaking again. So where have you been living? My car mostly. Sometimes I can afford a motel room for a night or two. Maria, the woman who owns the food truck, she's been letting me work for cash. She doesn't ask questions, doesn't require paperwork. It's not much, but it keeps me fed. Jesus Christ, Lisa. You're 8 months pregnant, living in a car? She nodded, fresh tears starting. I know it's not good for the baby, but I don't have anywhere else to go. My parents think I abandoned Benjamin. He called them before I could, told them I was having a breakdown, that I ran off with another man. They won't even take my calls now. I sat back in the booth, trying to process all this. My son, the boy I raised, taught to work with his hands, taught about honor and treating people right, had thrown his pregnant wife out on the streets like garbage. There's something else, Lisa said, her voice getting even quieter, something about you being sick. What do you mean? I used to do bookkeeping for small businesses before I married Benjamin. I know how to spot things in financial records that don't add up. Victor, someone's been stealing from Hayes Construction, a lot of money. My coffee cup rattled when I set it down. How much money? At least $750,000, maybe more. I saw the bank transfers before Benjamin kicked me out. Shell companies, fake vendor payments, inflated material costs. It's sophisticated stuff, not some simple skimming operation. The pieces started clicking together in my head. Every time I had a bad episode with the dizziness and nausea, Benjamin would step in to handle company business. Said he was just helping his old man out, taking care of things while I recovered. Lisa, I need to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. Have you ever noticed anything different about my coffee when Benjamin makes it? Any unusual taste or smell? Her face went dead white. Oh my God. You think they're poisoning you? I don't know what to think. But I've been getting sicker and sicker over the past few months, and it always seems to happen right before important business meetings. Times when Benjamin ends up making decisions for the company. Lisa put her hand over her mouth. The morning I left, the day Benjamin finally threw me out, I heard them talking in the kitchen early in the morning. Patricia said something about powder, about how it was working faster than they'd expected. I thought they were talking about some kind of supplement. The restaurant felt like it was spinning around me. My own son was trying to kill me, slowly, methodically, so it would look like natural causes. I need proof, I said, my voice steady despite the hurricane in my head, and I need you safe. Both of you. I paid the check and drove Lisa to a decent hotel on the other side of town. Paid for 2 weeks up front in cash, told the desk clerk she was my niece visiting from out of state, and I didn't want to be bothered with a lot of paperwork. The room was clean and safe, with a deadbolt and a view of the parking lot. Stay here, I told her. Don't go anywhere unless it's an emergency. I'll bring you food and anything else you need. But Lisa, if something happens to me, if I don't come back in a few days, you call this number. I wrote down the contact information for Albert Foster, an old buddy of mine who did private investigation work. Albert and I served in Vietnam together, different units, but same time frame. We'd stayed in touch over the years, helped each other out when needed. You don't forget that kind of bond. Al, I said when he answered his phone, I need a favor. A big one. What's going on, Vic? I told him everything. About Lisa, about the missing money, about my suspicions regarding the poisoning. Al listened without interrupting, which is what good investigators do. Let you tell the whole story before asking questions. You want me to look into your own son, I want you to find the truth. If I'm wrong about this, I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to Benjamin. But if I'm right, if you're right, you're lucky to be breathing. Arsenic poisoning is a classic choice for someone who wants it to look like natural causes. Slow, methodical, hard to detect unless you know what you're looking for. Can you test for it? I know a guy who runs a private lab, discreet, reliable, fast turnaround. You get me a blood sample and I'll have answers in 48 hours. While Albert started digging into Hayes Construction's financial records, I made an appointment with Dr. Beverly Johnson for a complete physical. Told her I was thinking about selling the company and wanted to make sure I was healthy enough to enjoy retirement. She scheduled me for the next morning, said she'd do a full blood panel and check everything from cholesterol to liver function. I didn't tell her what I was really looking for. That night, Benjamin came by the house like usual, brought me my evening tea, asked how I was feeling. Played the concerned son role perfectly. For the first time in months, I really looked at him while he talked. Studied his face, his mannerisms, the way he watched me drink.
You look tired tonight, Dad. Maybe you should think about stepping back from the company more.
Let me handle the day-to-day operations. Maybe you're right, I said, watching his reaction carefully. This Oakwood Plaza deal might be my last big project. His eyes lit up just slightly. Really? You're seriously thinking about retiring? Thinking about it. Question is, would you be ready to take over full-time? I've been ready for years, Dad. You know that. I've learned everything you've taught me about the business. I took a sip of the tea he'd made me. Earl Grey with honey, same thing he'd been bringing me every evening for months. It tasted bitter, but it always had. Benjamin, what would you do if something happened to me? If I died tomorrow? What do you mean? Why would you ask something like that? Just hypothetical. If I had a heart attack tonight, what would happen to Hayes Construction? He leaned forward in his chair. Well, legally, everything would transfer to me according to your will. The house, the business, all the assets. I'd make sure to continue your legacy, keep the company running the way you'd want. And what about Lisa? What about her and the baby? His face darkened like a storm cloud. Lisa made her choice, Dad. She abandoned the family. I can't be responsible for someone who walked out on us. I nodded and took another sip of tea. You're probably right about that, but I wasn't actually drinking the tea. While Benjamin was looking toward the window, talking about company policies, I'd switched our cups. The bitter tea he'd prepared for me was now sitting in front of him. If there was poison in that drink, he'd just given it to himself. I should probably get going, he said, standing up. Early meeting tomorrow with the Oakwood Plaza investors. As he walked toward the door, I watched him stumble slightly. Nothing dramatic, just a little unsteady on his feet. You okay there, son? Yeah, just tired. Long day. See you tomorrow, Dad? After he left, I dumped both cups of tea down the kitchen sink and called Albert. Al, I need you to run full surveillance on Benjamin tomorrow. Complete coverage from the time he leaves his house until he goes to bed. What kind of surveillance are we talking about? The kind where you document every move he makes, every person he talks to, every place he goes. I think he's about to make a mistake, and I want it all on record. What kind of mistake? The kind desperate people make when they think they're winning. The next morning, I felt better than I had in weeks. No dizziness, no nausea, no brain fog. If Benjamin had been putting something in my evening tea, missing just one dose was already making a noticeable difference. At 9 a.m., Albert called with his first report. Vic, your boy just went into Dallas Medical Supply on Elm Street. That's a commercial account place. They sell restricted chemicals to laboratories and industrial clients. I'm in the parking lot now, watching the entrance. Stay on him. Document everything. 20 minutes later, Albert called again. He just came out carrying a small package. Now he's driving toward the Lakewood area. Looks like he's heading to an apartment complex. Keep following. He's at Patricia Wilson's place now, apartment 2B at the Lakewood Gardens complex. Been inside for about an hour. I knew those apartments, mid-range place, nothing fancy but decent enough. Patricia was living there on stolen money from my company. At noon, Albert called with another update. They just left together in Benjamin's truck, heading back toward your construction site. I'm on my way. I drove to the Oakwood Plaza development site and parked where I could see our construction trailer. Benjamin and Patricia went inside together, and through the windows I could see them looking at paperwork spread across the desk. Probably trying to figure out their next move now that they thought I was getting weaker and more manageable. My phone rang. Dr. Beverly Johnson. Victor, I need you to come in immediately. Your blood work shows some very concerning abnormalities. What kind of abnormalities, Doc? Elevated levels of heavy metals in your system. Specifically arsenic. This isn't something that happens naturally. Have you been exposed to anything unusual recently? Old pesticides, contaminated well water, anything like that? No, I said, watching Benjamin through the trailer window. Nothing like that. Victor, I have to ask this directly. Is there any possibility that someone might be trying to hurt you? These levels don't occur by accident. This is intentional poisoning. What do you recommend I do? You need to contact the police immediately. And you need to start chelation therapy to get this poison out of your system before it causes permanent damage. I hung up and immediately called Albert. Al patched me through to Detective Richard Palmer at Dallas PD. Tell him Victor Hayes needs to file a report for attempted murder. You got confirmation? Blood test positive for arsenic. Just like you said it would be. Jesus, Vic. How the hell are you even walking around with poison in your system? 30 years of construction work and military training. Takes more than a little arsenic to put this old soldier down, but I wasn't feeling as tough as I sounded. I was scared, angry, and heartbroken all at the same time. My son, my only child, the boy I'd raised and taught everything I knew, was systematically trying to murder me for money. Albert and Detective Richard Palmer met me at Dallas Police Headquarters an hour later. Palmer was a good cop, about my age, with the weathered face of someone who'd seen too much family ugliness over the years. He understood what it meant when blood turned against blood. Mr. Hayes, these are serious accusations. If we're going to move forward with attempted murder charges, we need solid evidence beyond the blood test. What else do you need? Proof of the actual poisoning method, financial evidence of the theft, and ideally, a recorded confession. Think you can get your son to admit what he's been doing? I thought about it for a long moment, maybe. If he thinks I'm dying, he might get careless with his words. We worked out a plan. I'd call Benjamin that evening, tell him I was having chest pains and needed him to come to the house immediately. The police would wire the place for sound and video, position themselves outside, and we'd see if Benjamin would incriminate himself when he thought victory was within reach. That evening, I called Benjamin right after dinner time. Son, I need you to come over to the house right away. Something's wrong with me. I'm having chest pains and I can't seem to catch my breath. Did you call 911? Should I meet you at the hospital? No hospitals. I just need you here. Please hurry. He was at the house in 15 minutes. I was sitting in my chair in the study, pretending to be sicker than I actually felt. The recording equipment was hidden, and Detective Palmer was positioned in the next room. Dad, you look terrible. We really should get you to the emergency room. No hospitals, I said weakly. I just need to rest for a bit. But Benjamin, I need to tell you something important about the company and my will. He sat down across from me, trying to look concerned, but I could see the anticipation in his eyes. What about it, Dad? I've been thinking about what you said. About stepping back, letting you take over. I want to make some changes to my will tomorrow. I want to leave part of the business to Lisa and the baby. His expression changed completely. The fake concern vanished, replaced by something ugly and cold. What the hell are you talking about, Dad? Lisa left us. She abandoned the family. She doesn't deserve anything. She's carrying your child. My grandchild. That baby deserves security. That baby probably isn't even mine. You can't give away what I've worked for to some cheating whore who couldn't even keep her husband satisfied. The language hit me like a physical blow. Benjamin, that's your wife you're talking about. Not anymore, she isn't. And if you're stupid enough to change your will in favor of that slut, you might not live long enough to sign the papers. There it was, clear as day, caught on tape. What's that supposed to mean? He stood up and started pacing around the room like a caged animal. It means you're an old man, Dad. Old men have accidents, heart attacks. Sometimes they just fade away in their sleep. Are you threatening me, son? I'm stating facts. You've been getting weaker and sicker every month. Maybe it's time to accept the reality of your situation. And what reality is that? That you built this company for me, for your son, not for some pregnant slut who couldn't even appreciate what she had. I'd heard enough. I stood up from the chair, steadier than I'd been in months. The hidden microphone had captured everything we needed. Benjamin Hayes, you're under arrest. Detective Palmer and 2 uniformed officers came through the front door on cue. Benjamin's face went white as a sheet. What the hell is going on here? You're under arrest for attempted murder and grand theft, Palmer announced, reading him his Miranda rights while the other officers moved to restrain him. This is insane. He's a sick old man. You can't believe anything he says. As they cuffed him and led him toward the patrol car, Benjamin looked back at me through the living room window, not like a son looking at his father for the last time, like a stranger who'd been caught in the act. Patricia Wilson was arrested at her apartment 2 hours later. The search warrant turned up enough arsenic to kill several people, along with detailed financial records showing exactly how they'd been systematically stealing from Hayes Construction for over a year. The trial took place 3 months later. The prosecution laid out the whole scheme, how Benjamin had been slowly poisoning me while authorizing fraudulent payments to shell companies that Patricia controlled. They'd planned to kill me gradually, inherit everything, and disappear to Costa Rica where they'd already opened bank accounts. Benjamin's defense attorney tried to paint me as an abusive father and tyrannical boss, claiming his client was protecting himself and Patricia from my alleged violence. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours before finding both defendants guilty on all counts. Benjamin got 15 years for attempted murder and embezzlement. Patricia got 20 years as the mastermind. During sentencing, neither of them showed any remorse. Benjamin actually had the nerve to tell the judge that I had ruined his life by being too controlling. Lisa's baby, my grandson Leo, was born 2 weeks after the trial ended. 7 pounds, healthy as a horse, with the brightest eyes I'd ever seen. Lisa let me hold him in the hospital, this tiny, perfect human being who almost didn't have a grandfather to protect him. What are you going to tell him about his father when he's old enough to ask? I asked Lisa while she was nursing him. That some people make terrible choices, but that his grandfather is a good man who saved his life before he was even born. I set up an irrevocable trust fund for Leo that Benjamin can never touch, even if he gets out of prison early. Changed my will to leave Hayes Construction to Lisa, with instructions to sell the business and use the proceeds to raise my grandson in a safe environment. The company still exists, but I'm not running it anymore. I handed day-to-day operations over to Theodore and moved to a small ranch about an hour outside Dallas. Lisa and Leo come to visit every weekend. She calls me Dad now, which makes me happier than any construction contract ever did. The arsenic left some permanent effects. My hands still shake sometimes, and I get tired easier than I used to. But I'm alive, my grandson is safe, and Lisa has the resources she needs to build a good life for herself and her son. Some evenings, I sit on the front porch and think about Benjamin, wondering where I went wrong as a father. How did a boy I taught to work hard and treat people with respect turn into someone who would poison his own father for money? I think it was too much success, too quickly. He never had to struggle the way I did. Never learned that everything worth having requires sacrifice and genuine effort. He expected to inherit what I'd built without understanding the character it takes to maintain it. That's a mistake I won't make with Leo. He'll learn to work with his hands, learn the value of honest labor, learn what it means to earn respect rather than demand it. Most importantly, he'll learn that family loyalty means protecting each other, not destroying each other for personal gain. And he'll never have to worry about poison in his food or lies from people who claim to love him. That's a promise from a grandfather who almost didn't live to make it. And it's a promise I intend to keep for as long as I draw breath. The hardest lesson I learned is this: blood doesn't guarantee loyalty, but character determines legacy. You can build a fortune, but if you don't build the person who inherits it, you've built nothing at all. Trust is earned through actions, not inherited through genetics. Watch what people do when they think no one's looking. That's when you see their true nature, and that's when you make the decisions that will protect everything you've worked for.